All right, it's 7:47. Social crossover with me, Lhoza. What dem base Bongwe is here. Masi buliseke sibulele kuwe Bongwe ngokuba uthabe kanti uthathe lithuba uzoba nathi apha. Khabulisa baphula ngokusesikweni ke ngokulodlanto.
Molweni. Sesiphinde salapha again.
Yes.
And thank you for being with us.
All right. Ithi lento iyabazali ngokunika imvume yomnye umzali. Siqala intoni parental consent.
Okay. Namhlanje siqale ngoba intoni topic yethu discussa parental consent, but specifically in terms of traveling overseas. Now this is dealt with in terms of legislation that regulates this is the Immigration Act, together with
it's raining cats and dogs. Fakala ngapha kwe headphones. Okay. Yes.
It's the Immigration Act together with the regulation yayo, and then obviously the Children's Act.
Sure.
Okay? Lena scope sale discussion yethu, we literally limiting it to divorced or separated parents.
Okay.
And parents that never got married.
Okay.
Ne?
Okay.
That is just to sizwe understand that yeah, well, so I had to limit it.
Sure.
So what is this parental consent that I'm talking about? So when a parent is traveling with umntana, there are certain requirements. There was a year where there was a big talk about the stringency or how strict it was at that time to travel with abantwana, and it got to a point where traveling abroad with abantwana, it got to a point where it was discouraging and disheartening to travel nabantwana. But it seems like the government took a step back by reviewing a lot. But when you're going to travel with umdana, obviously a passport is necessary for umdana, especially if they're under the age of 16. There is, I think, by visa, a tourist passport that they can apply for.
Okay.
If it's under the age of 16, I think 16, yes. And then a visa, depending on Banyapi. And then there's the unabridged birth certificate. Now, this discussion pertains to unabridged birth certificate abazali bavela bobabini.
Okay.
Because that is when you would need the consent. Or if abaveli bobabini but ubongwe udecide unika umntana ifani yaklo tatakhe, whether bebechatile okanye uwayemnikile. So there's going to be those questions ba njani uthi umama walo mntana kodwa ifani asifani. So that's where you know.
And kwamanye amazwe ezo zinto apply thina abazozi understand ba in fact umntana entombi and this and that banazo ezo zinto. Okay.
So it only applies where there's those situations, late discussion that we're having. Then elendo si discuss ayona kanye la parental consent affidavit. Ne? Lena is now mna ndiya travelisha nomntana. Utata womntana has to submit this la parental consent affidavit. What is this parental consent affidavit? It's basically him saying, you know what, ndiyavuma mna ndinguzibani, ndingutata kazibani, ndiyavuma ubani makahambe nomntana. Obviously he would be aware basiyapi.
Sure.
You know?
Sure.
So it's gonna be that. And then there's also remember it's divorced or separate, it's divorced parents as well that we're taking into account. If there's a court order in place, that court order would come in handy, especially if la court order comes in glanda where there's parental rights and responsibilities. Remember, there's going to be the separation of those.
Okay.
So that's where it would come in. Sometimes umdu might not need a parental consent affidavit if they have the full parental rights.
Okay.
Zomdana. So they'll just produce the document. The document will have both parties explain the surname situation. So
like a divorce decree?
It's something similar, yes.
Okay.
So it's gonna be it's about divorce decree, ne? And then if there was a settlement, the settlement agreement will contain the arrangement that was made, including leyo ithetha ngabantwana. Yeah, so that would be the document that you would have with you to explain, but okay, I have the rights to travel nalomdana because of this document.
Okay.
Yeah, well, and then when I was doing my research, this I found interesting. I found 2 examples of when consent can be withheld.
Okay.
That's when you are traveling, the traveling is dangerous. So if mhlambi you're going to a war zone,
ePalestina
Yabo.
uzawuyapha uyoqhushumbisa
Yes.
umntanam ndizawungavumi andizuyisayina.
and
Okay.
also now that we're going through a pandemic,
Mm.
if you're looking at mhlambi you're looking at going to a country where the other parent feels like no, but
It's not safe
it's
for
risky,
umntanam
yabo.
yakho. Okay.
So it would be now it would be that. And the second one where the other parent believes that if umyekile lo mntana wahamba, there's a possibility that umntana akazubuya. So those are the times where it can be withheld.
Okay.
Now, she was asking about what happens when this consent is withheld. Ne? So if the consent is withheld, you would have to apply to the High Court. Ne?
Okay.
Requesting the High Court, it must
Iqwalasele.
waiver this refusal to consent. Ne? And you must also, it's important that you say, but it's unreasonable. Unless this person has given reasons where you just like, okay, fine, we can, But
Okay.
if it's unreasonable, you must say it's unreasonable.
Andifuna nje ndikhupha ishuri. Okay.
Why?
Okay.
But also when you're doing this application, it will have to go through the family advocate as usual when it comes to the child. Ne?
So that's the only ndawo umuntu azokwazi uyochallenge ngayo.
A High Court,
Funeka abheke
yes.
High Court.
Yes. Remember, a High Court is the upper guardian of all minor children.
Okay.
So kuyo yonke into eyenzekayo, they have the final say. So that's why they would be able to waiver that application to say they will look, obviously, as I said, funeka family advocate. Mhlambi, the family advocate might want to interview both parents and do a recommendation. The High Court would look at the recommendation, look at the paper submitted by both parties and all that information. Before I forget, that parental consent affidavit in a time period,
Okay.
it must be within 4 months before nihambe.
Okay.
It can't be for ixesha elide.
And after nihambile iphelele apho every time ufuneka uhambe nomntana uzohamba naye.
Every time funeka umane usenza entsha.
Okay. Uxolo uyabuza apha hi Sandiso Hlahla uthi divorce decree, can the other party do a once off consent until the child is 18?
Remember, inzima once of consent because things happen
Then does that
between
change?
umntana being 11 and umntana being 18. I'll take a simple example. What if your behavior umntana changes to the worst? And then abone lonba no besi lenient kakhulu nalo mntana funeka siqinise isandla. That once of consent now has to be reviewed because there've been changes. Umntu is not nani relationship yenu will change. So once of consent would probably be umntu who's not in the picture per se, but between the two of you with a relationship where you co-parenting, I don't think a once of consent and legally a once of consent can't work because remember when you're doing this affidavit, I'm saying it must be done 4 months prior to banihambe. So nizahamba nibuye. Then 2 years later, yes, 2 years later, you need to go again. You see, it can't be once off.
And mhlawumbe isabe statile bani endaweni ethile niyathinthini ngokwani sayichina niyakwenye and then funeke iphinde yenziwe. Yo. So umuntu angamalela only omnye umzali angafuni only xa kukho ezo zinto ezimbini mhlawumbe ngexesha lepandemic okanye kukho imfazwe kolo lizwe njalo njalo. But if you feel ba wena akafuni hambe nomntana lo kakade uspite mna ngomntana ungaya ke High Court iyokwazi kwenziwa khona.
Look, the list is not exhaustive because class city traveling is dangerous. That's very subjective. But what does traveling is dangerous mean? As I said, you want to example as the pandemic now, also going to a war zone. We are zikhona ezinye indawo where you'll find that mhlambe it's a tropical place and mhlambe malaria. So it's very subjective to whoever is saying no if they can justify it and they have backing yalento bayithethayo. I think that's why it would now go to court so that the court will hear about, okay, you saying it's unreasonable. Afike in a city, look, this is what I took into account, having read, having done 1, 2, 3, 4, spoken to people who have gone there. This is what I found. I don't think right now, Mhlambi, it might not be even, but it's forever. It's just Mhlambi, the area ayakuyo umdu. you understand.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So otherwise nje umuntu makakhululele omnye umuntu umntana mantiza wamahambe nomntana.
Yes. Ibalulekile uba novane, because look, I will always say this. High court applications are not cheap. So nizaya kwezo expenses when you could have sat down nayithetha navisisana uba okay, why ungafuni sihambe? If we had an alternative
Why
place,
ndifuna uhamba? Why ungafuni sihambe? Okay.
you know, you can work it out. Yes, there are times where, you know, just even asking uyayazba akazovuma umuntu because of the relationship you have.
Sure.
In those circumstances, it makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, well, so.
Okay. All right. I think let's end it there. Thank you so much, Bongwe. Kodwa ke bazali bethu masizameni bakukwezi izinto umntana kuthiwa iza ne unabreed certificate. Buqomathiza kazofuna nokuya apho uyosayina yonke lento. So ngoku iyamntasi ngokuxesha ngathi nisavana khawe kwenza na breed yomntana azokwasayina khana kwenza ipassport yomntana noko ya last iminyaka na 5 ne.
5 years.
So noko ngexesha ngathi noko nisakwazi unyamezelana kancinci qiniseka ezo zinto unazo in place kwenzela ba mhlange ngxaki xa sekukuba impela ubuyazi ba awunid signature yakhe. Bongwe, thank you so much.
Pleasure.
See you next Thursday. Ubongokazi from Thabo Manyi Attorneys. Wangaba ke ufuna nento onoyibhekisa uyabaguglisha nje yayeka ukufaka ekoneni. Thabo Manyi ngamagqwetha ke azinze apha eMonti kodwa ngicela niyasebenza ne across the country virtually zonke ezo zinto niyazenza ngoku. Yeah, okay. Masimkhuphe wethu ngo DJ Cleo My Soul Say Yes. Thank you, Bongwe.